Since she had purged everyone previously sent from the main palace, Talia had less than 10 maids from the lesser palace at her disposal. And even those, she rarely permitted to approach her. Because of this, she found herself forced to embark on this long journey surrounded by the servants Senevier had sent. In truth, she would have preferred to cast them all out, but as she watched Gareth and Ayla prepare to ride out with an escort of hundreds, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Her pride wouldn't allow her to appear so diminished. She bit her lip nervously, her gaze fixed with a smoldering anger on the crowd surrounding the carriages of the crown prince and the first princess. Talia had always loathed having people underfoot. For years, she had allowed no one near her except Varkas and her nanny. She refused to keep anyone close who might turn on her, anyone who might see her moment of weakness and trample her. But as her half-siblings flaunted the grandeur of the Imperial family with their vast retinues, the thought of appearing in public with only a handful of servants was a source of mounting, bitter irritation. In the end, she had accepted Senevier's maids. But she couldn't find a moment's peace, her mind constantly worrying with the possible intrigues they might be hiding. She watched every movement they made as they loaded her trunks. "Are you truly planning to take all of this with you?" Talia looked up, her gaze cold as it landed on the man who had suddenly appeared beside her. She had only just managed to get rid of that foolish guard who had followed Gareth around like a devoted puppy. Now, this new knight, barely settled into his position, was already speaking to her with such unearned familiarity. She didn't like it at all. "Is there something about my possessions that doesn't suit you? I understand you wish to maintain your dignity as a member of the Imperial family," the knight said, his tone bordering on condescending. "But isn't this excessive? Hundreds of dresses, trunks of jewelry. Unless you plan to change 5 times a day, this is nothing but a burden on the horses." "You understand nothing," Talia snapped. "I intend to change not 5, but 10 times a day. We will be traveling from dawn until dusk, and I will be covered in the filth of the road. I will not wear a soiled dress for even a minute longer than necessary." "You're joking," the knight said with a tight, confused smile, clearly failing to realize she was entirely serious. Leaving the dim-witted man behind, Talia marched toward her carriage. It stood at the very rear of the long procession, yet it was no less magnificent than the crown prince's own. The doors and roof were a riot of gold and ivory. Inside, the seat was wide enough to serve as a bed, draped in thick felt throws and silk pillows. Talia climbed inside and pulled back the curtain behind the seat to inspect the built-in storage. She checked the drawers one by one, ensuring her most opulent gowns and jewels were in place. But even this wasn't enough to outshine Ayla. For a moment, she considered stealing the diamond necklace the Emperor had given Senevier. No, she should have just taken her mother's entire jewelry box. The Empress clearly wanted her daughter to sabotage Ayla's engagement. She was practically pushing her toward it. If Talia had asked for the jewels for that purpose, Senevier would have agreed in a heartbeat. Maybe I should go to the main palace after all. Talia cast an impatient glance at her belongings and climbed back out of the carriage. But as she did, she spotted a figure in the distance wearing the silver and white uniform of the Knights of Roem. She froze. There were over 150 knights in the courtyard, all dressed in identical uniforms, but she only had eyes for him. Her obsessive gaze was drawn to his broad shoulders, his rigid posture, and the way the sun caught the ash gold of his hair. He moved across the courtyard with a controlled, lethal grace, barking orders to his subordinates as he conducted a final inspection. Talia swallowed hard. The closer he came, the more her throat felt as though it were filled with jagged shards of glass. His indifferent gaze swept across the procession, eventually landing on her carriage. Even from a distance, she saw the thin, familiar crease appear between his eyebrows, the one that always manifested when his eyes found her. Then that cold, beautiful face, the one that was the source of all her pain, approached. "Are you still not ready for departure?" Varkas demanded, addressing Talia's knight without even sparing her a glance. The knight scratched his head in embarrassment. "It looks as though we'll need an additional wagon just for the luggage," he muttered. Varkas's pale blue eyes turned to the servants who were struggling to cram the final trunks into the carriage. A flicker of irritation crossed his usually impassive features. Finally, his gaze landed on Talia. "This pilgrimage will pass through 6 major cities. Anything you find yourself lacking can be purchased along the way. Get rid of this excess weight." Talia tilted her chin up in a gesture of pure defiance. "No. How could you possibly know what I might need?" "It will be more dresses and more jewelry," he said dryly. "The Northwestern Territories are home to many thriving trade hubs. You can buy whatever suits your whims there. Now, stop harassing the servants and prepare to leave." Talia let out a disdainful snort. "Don't be absurd. You only want me to appear like a wasteful, unworthy princess so that I'll suffer in comparison to Ayla. Do you think I don't see your game? Since when have you ever cared for your reputation?" Varkas's lips curled in a ghost of a smirk, clearly unconvinced. "Besides, no one is going to compare you to the first princess. Let go of your groundless anxieties." Those were the words Talia dreaded hearing from him more than any others. Her face twisted with resentment, and her hand flew up, but Varkas was not a man who would ever tolerate such a thing. He seized her wrist in a lightning-fast grip and gave the servants a curt nod. "Leave only the essentials. Unload everything else. We leave in 1 hour. Move." "Who gave you permission?" Talia shrieked, struggling with everything she had to pull her hand from his grasp. She was on the verge of hysteria, but the man didn't even flinch. Consumed by rage, she kicked him in the shin with all her might. "Who do you think you are, to tell me what I can and cannot take? Do you fancy yourself someone of importance? You aren't even a duke yet. You're just a knight of the court. How dare a common soldier give orders to a princess of the Empire? Why the delay?" Varkas said to the servants, his voice turning to ice. He ignored her outburst entirely. The servants, who had been hesitating, immediately scrambled to obey him. Nothing could have demonstrated the truth more clearly. The orders of the nominal princess meant nothing compared to the word of Varkas, the commander of the Imperial Guard and the future Duke of Siorcan. Talia, blinded by her fury, lunged toward one of the maids. "Get your hands off my things. If so much as a single trinket is lost, I will hang every one of you with my own hands." She didn't get to finish her threat. Varkas scooped her up with one hand, as if she were nothing more than a piece of troublesome luggage, and shoved her back into the carriage without a word. Forced into the seat, Talia was incandescent with rage. Varkas was loyal to the Imperial family to his very marrow. He would never dream of raising a hand against Ayla. The fact that he felt comfortable treating her this way meant only one thing: he didn't consider her a true member of the Imperial bloodline. The thought made her eyes burn with a cold, stinging fire. Resentment and agony warred in her chest. The man who bowed with such profound respect to her half-sister treated her like an insignificant, troublesome doll.